Staying lean doesn't have to be as hard as it feels right now. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips that I use to stay lean or stay at a very low body fat percentage. The first point is to understand that you're going to have slip-ups. To think that you're going to be able to muscle through hormones and be able to fight the hunger is probably not going to work. I can say that from experience that very rarely people can just block hormones that have been evolutionarily passed on to us to tell us to eat, to tell us to store body fat. Very few people are going to be able to fight those off for an extended period of time. You may be able to do it for a short period of time, but you're better off understanding that slip-ups happen. You're going to make a mistake, you're going to have a bad meal, you're going to have a bad day or even a bad week. I think it would be much more useful to understand that these slip-ups are inevitable. They're gonna happen. Something's gonna take over you, and late at night you're gonna maybe have something that you shouldn't have, which was lying around the house that you've been avoiding. And instead of beating yourself up over it, just realize that slip-ups do happen, and it's better to practice coming back from a slip-up. So getting back on the horse and staying on track, or I should say getting back on track, is going to be a much more useful skill to you than being able to fight hormones like a ironclad warrior defending his fort. So getting back on the horse and getting back up when you fall is going to be a much more useful skill to practice when it comes to dieting and losing weight. Point number 2 is highly related to point number 1, and that's to plan to cheat. So lying around the house, you may want to have certain food items that I would call healthy cheats. So that's going to be different for everybody. That may be some healthy crackers, or protein bars, or healthy cookies, or these types of things. But to not buy them and not have them in the house because you're thinking, oh, I'm never going to have them, is probably going to lead to more disaster than to have something that you can have a healthy cheat with. So for example, for me, I like to have fruit on hand, so I'll spend a bit more and have some nice fruit lying around. And you may be thinking, well, fruit's not really a cheat. And yeah, I guess it isn't. But one way I use my cheats is I'll take my protein smoothie or protein shake and I'll throw in like 3 bananas. So we're talking, instead of like a 100 or 200 calorie protein drink, it's now up to like maybe 500 calories if I throw in some scoops of chia seeds and some milk or something else. So now it's more like a delicious milkshake. And for me, that's a cheat, but I would say it's like a healthy cheat. So there's other ways that you can do it. Another thing that I like to do is just make an extra cup of rice. And on those days where I feel kind of like I'm just craving something, I'll just have a second helping of rice. And yeah, some people do carb cycling and that type of thing. I tend not to program that into my dietary schedule. But, when I have a craving, when I'm really feeling something, these are the types of cheats that I like to have lying around, or that I plan into I shouldn't say plan, but that I fall back on when I need to. And so this is another tactic I think would be useful for people trying to lose weight, is understand that, cheating is okay, but try to choose something that's a fairly healthy cheat, and just have something lying around the house that if you were to binge on it, yeah, you might overshoot your calories, but it would be also full of maybe some nutrients or something slightly good for you. These type of things I think would help a lot in losing weight, because it is a roller coaster that goes up and down, and it's not something that's linear. So having those cheat days is totally fine, as long as, like I said in point number 1, you get back on the wagon and you keep plugging away, because over the long term, that's what people who are lean tend to do. Point number 3 is to not surround yourself with people who lack motivation. And this might be kind of challenging because maybe you're thinking, all my friends are a little bit overweight, or family members don't really care about staying lean. And for you, that's a goal. For you, that's something that you aspire to do. And, hanging out with, your good friends or seeing family may make it quite hard for you to stay on track. And believe me, these people mean well for you. And, I call it like compassionate haters. So they may say, oh, come on over for dinner, or let's go out for whatever, drinks or something like that. And it may be quite hard to turn them down. So I would say, these people, although they have your best interest in mind, it's going to be very easy for you to succumb to their influences. So not hanging around or not spending too much time with people that may sabotage, what you're trying to do. So this brings me to point number 4, which is to try to watch inspirational videos or people on social media. Now, this should be taken with a grain of salt. So social media, of course, is full of people who are, doing things that you may not want to do. They're on substances, they look great, jacked, ripped, lifting a lot of weight, or maybe they're just very skilled, like those calisthenics athletes, handstands and planches. These types of people, yeah, some of them may be natural, and that's a tricky thing. You got to be able to spot or learn how to spot people who may be using substances, because sometimes it's good for motivation, but when that's all we're watching, we may have a false sense of what's achievable. And it would be better off to try to find an influencer or find somebody who motivates you that might be just a few steps ahead from where you are. So they're a bit leaner, they're pushing it, they're motivational, and following people like this, I think, would really inspire you to get you to your goals, rather than always be watching like bodybuilding channels. I watch C-Bum once in a while. I like to watch what's his name there, Mr. Bodybuilder, Sam Sulek. Hugely inspirational guys. But I feel like when I start watching those videos for long enough, and that's all I'm watching, I start to look in the mirror and think, why am I not at their level? And so once in a while, I would say it's okay, for a boost of motivation, to watch some of these influencers that are using gear or doing things that you think you would never want to do. But for most of the people who you should be following, I would say try to spot the guys, or men and women, who are natural, or at least who look somewhat natural. That's always going to keep you, one step behind them, but pushing forward. And so for the last point, like I was saying about looking in the mirror and comparing yourself to others, maybe you don't want to do that all the time, but I would say point number 5, do look in the mirror as a form of reference, as opposed to stepping on the scale. For some people, stepping on the scale is a pretty effective way to gauge how well you're losing weight, or if you have a body fat percentage scale, that might keep you motivated as well. But personally, I found that using these metrics are not as good as just looking in the mirror. If you have a bit of extra salt, one day, then you're going to be retaining water. You'll be heavier. Maybe you'll look a little bit fluffier, puffy face or something like that. So best thing to do, I would say, look in the mirror. Shirt off is obviously better than with shirt on, but for some people, shirt on is good enough. You just sort of get a feel for how people are looking at you. So make it a habit. I would say a regular, definitely daily, once in the morning, once at night. Give yourself a real good hard look in the mirror and say, hey, am I making progress? How are things going? How am I looking? How are my clothes fitting? And they often say that losing weight is a marathon, not a sprint. I would even take that a step further and say it's really a long, long, long walk. When you think you can get fast gains, you're usually going to rebound, and you have to find a sustainable way of eating and incorporate that into your lifestyle. So plan on it taking a while, and build it into your lifestyle. I'm going to be making more videos about how to do that exactly. So if you're interested in these types of videos, please hit the subscribe button. And if there's any of these tips, tricks that have helped you out, please let me know in the comment section down below. And with that, I'm out.